I don't want to be your friend anymore." Those gut-wrenching words were earth-shattering to my 9-year-old ears. I masked my pain with anger, screaming at Lisa with tears clouding my vision. "Fine, I didn't like being friends with you anyway," I huffed, stomping off dramatically to go sit by myself on the swing set. Mom could tell that something was wrong the moment I opened the car door. "Mallory, is everything okay? It looks like you've been crying," she said after allowing me a moment to strap myself in. "I'm fine. Are you sure? You know you can come to me with anything, okay?" I nodded, turning to the window to gaze out at the vehicles whizzing past. The remainder of the ride was marred by a tense silence. I bolted to my room the moment the car rolled to a stop. I locked my door and buried my face in my pillow, fat sloppy tears seeping into the fabric. Suddenly, white-hot rage enveloped me. Who did Lisa think she was? Did she think she was better than me? Well, I'd show her. I raced to my plastic picnic table, plopping down on the bright yellow bench and retrieving my crayons and printer paper. I was determined to show Lisa exactly how she'd made me feel. I scribbled furiously at the page, my masterpiece gradually coming to fruition. I put the finishing touches on my demented portrait, drawing a pronounced black X where each of Lisa's eyes should have been. I placed the crayon beside the page, admiring my handiwork. The gruesome scene depicted Lisa's body being crushed by the massive tires of a truck, her head completely separated from her flattened form. I couldn't wait to hand it to her at school. I awoke the next day in a chipper mood. I was ready to make Lisa pay, only I'd never get the chance. Lisa was absent. One day turned into 2, then 2 to 3. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a tad bit worried about her. Where was she? On the 3rd day, we finally received an answer. Mrs. Allen stood before the class, holding back tears. "So I know that you've all been wondering where Lisa has been." She took a moment to compose herself as whispers erupted among us. "I've received the tragic news that Lisa has passed away." Mrs. Allen burst into tears, unable to hide her devastation any longer. The whole class fell silent. A few of the girls started bawling their eyes out. I just sat there in dumbstruck shock as an empty pit manifested in my stomach. This couldn't be happening. Yes, I was pissed at her, but Lisa didn't deserve to die. We had a sub for the rest of the day. Some of the inconsolable kids were picked up by their parents. I was left to process the sickening reality that the only real friend I'd ever had was gone. Days passed, and rumors flew. Kids began to talk, and what they said shook me to my core. Johnny Herman's mom was watching the evening news when he happened to walk in on the story. Lisa was killed in a hit and run. The truck had hit her at just the right angle to send her head flying from her body. It couldn't be. This had to be some sort of demented coincidence. I couldn't have been the cause of Lisa's death, right? I needed to test it out. The day I'd heard the gossip, I bolted straight to my room. I claimed my seat at the plastic table, and I began to ponder. What should I draw? I thought hard, coming up with idea after idea, just to throw each into my mental waste bin. Suddenly, a light bulb blazed to life in my head. I needed a new best friend, so why not create one? I decided to make my new bestie a little girl. She had blue hair and striking purple eyes. She wore a white shirt that read "I love you" enclosed in a big pink heart. I captioned the picture "New Best Friend," marking it at the top in black crayon. And then I waited and waited and waited. Maybe the whole thing really was just a strange coincidence. After too many agonizing minutes of sitting and waiting for something to happen, I conceded to the fact that I didn't have any supernatural drawing abilities. Trudging downstairs to finish my homework, after a relaxing evening of watching movies and eating TV dinners with Mom, she tucked me into bed. "Good night, Mallory. I love you." "Good night, Mom. I love you too." I was just beginning to drift off to sleep when I heard it. A rustling noise inside my closet. I froze, my heart thudding against my tiny ribcage like a drum. I held my breath and listened intently. To my abject horror, my closet door began to slowly creak open. In the dim moonlight flooding through my window, I could see spindly black fingers wrap around the frame. A cartoonish face gradually emerged, sending fear racing to my heart. Purple soulless eyes peered into mine. A crudely drawn semicircle was entrenched above its chin, forming an ugly twisted smile. Blonde blue hair cascaded down its back, still and unwavering with each jerky movement. I stifled a scream. Instead, I urgently reached for my bedside lamp. The room was bathed in light. My gaze was drawn to the blocky white shirt fixed to its chest. A massive pink heart was emblazoned on the front. Inside it read, "I love you," a nauseating cocktail of elation and dread swirl in my gut. So it was true. What that meant, I was suddenly jolted back to reality. A figure shuffled closer, leaving the obscurity of my closet. It stood before me, head cocked to the side like a curious dog. It was studying me. It timidly reached out a scraggly hand. I whimpered, retreating under the blankets. The drawing leapt back behind the door. It peeked at me apprehensively, poking its bulbous head from its perceived safe haven. Gradually, I shed the covers, and our eyes connected. Though she was born from crayon and paper, I thought I could make out some sort of emotion behind those dark and even orbs. Fear. I began to realize that she was just as afraid of me as I was of her. I hesitantly scooted to the edge of my bed, trying to make myself as non-imposing as possible. "It's okay, I won't hurt you," I squeaked, attempting to coax her into the open. She incrementally slid out from her hiding place, returning to the center of the room. I gazed at her in awe. Now that I was getting a chance to completely drink in her features, she wasn't so scary. I had created her, after all. "Can you speak?" She pointed to her motionless mouth and dejectedly shook her head. "That's okay, I can do all the talking." "I bet you're a real good listener," I exclaimed, patting the spot on the bed beside me. Her eyes seemed to light up. She excitedly hurried over to me and plopped down. She stared at me expectantly, those same blank features now radiating a renewed sense of life. Jubilation coursed through my veins. Could this really be my new best friend? "You have to have a name." Let me think," I said, mulling it over. "Stacy." "No, Greta, that doesn't really fit." "Oh, I've got it. I'll call you Mona." Mona bounced up and down, clearly over the moon with my selection. My heart was filled with joy upon seeing her so happy. I stayed up talking to her well past my bedtime. Though Mona couldn't respond verbally, she would react animatedly to anything that I told her. Her responses always seemed genuine. It was a nice change to have someone who was actually interested in what I had to say. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have at some point, because I was awoken by Mom's shrill demands for me to get up. "Mallory, out of bed, now. You're late." I groggily rubbed my eyes, heart sinking when I noted that I was alone. "I'm up, just a minute." "Last night, Mona, was it all an elaborate dream?" I couldn't be certain. I rushed to my closet, flinging the door open in my desperate search for answers. I was greeted by nothing but clothes. My heart dropped. I felt as if I was given a puppy just to have it ripped from my hands. The moment I closed my eyes, I dejectedly went through the motions, muddling through my day. How could I make all that up? It felt so real. I returned home from school and immediately shut myself in my room to sulk. I was around 15 minutes into just staring at a blank wall when I came to the realization. The drawing, if that was real, then maybe Mona was too. I darted to the plastic table, frantically shuffling papers, and there it was. Mona's lifeless eyes stared back at me. I shuddered. I couldn't explain it, but something about the picture unsettled me. It looked different somehow, more realistic. I put the page down, opting to try calling out to Mona myself. I sidled up to my closet and hovered my fist before the door. Was I crazy? Of course Mona wasn't real. I didn't actually have powers, right? I had to know. Hesitantly, I knocked 3 times, and in an unsteady, quivering voice, I spoke. "Hey, Mona, are you in there?" I stepped back and waited, and to my utter disbelief, the door began to open. My heart thumped furiously against my chest as our gazes connected. She was real. I grinned from ear to ear as she joined me on the bed. Mona and I hung out for hours. We played games, drew pictures, and she listened intently as I bounced from subject to subject. Things went on like that for months. I would excitedly return home from school, bolt to my room, and spend time with Mona for the remainder of the evening. It was perfect, or so I thought. As more and more time passed, I somehow failed to notice that Mona's features were slowly becoming more defined. Her sloppily drawn t-shirt began transitioning to real fabric. Her skin was tangible. Her smile grew wider. God, I was so naive. It didn't really sink in until Mona gained the ability to speak. A chill rippled through my body when I heard it for the first time. Her voice was soothing yet unnerving at the same time. "So you know what I told Dylan?" She shook her head, ocean blue hair flitting as she did. I told him you are real, Mona. She pointed a finger at her chest. Mona. I stared at her, mouth agape. I was paralyzed. Did you just speak? She gleefully nodded, her cheeks flushing with color. Mona, that's awesome. Say something else. She excitedly thrust a finger toward me. Mallory. That's right, Mona. I'm so proud of you, I shouted, throwing my arms around her. She felt warmer than I remembered. Knock, knock, knock. Mallory. Who are you talking to in there? Unlock this door right now, young lady. Panic struck my chest like a lightning bolt. Sorry, Mom. Just a second. I turned to Mona, but she had already disappeared. I begrudgingly approached the door and let Mom in. Her visage was contorted in a cocktail of worry and confusion. Mallory, I thought I asked you not to lock that door. Now, who are you just talking to? I stared at my feet. Mona. Who's Mona? My friend, Mom. She lives here. Mom's brows furrowed. I watched the confusion melt away as she mulled over my words. Alright, sweetie. You and Mona really need to spend more time outside. You've been in here too much lately. Okay, can you leave now? I want to play with her some more. Mom was visibly taken aback at my request, but she obliged. A pang of guilt stabbed me through my heart like a butcher knife as she left. I'll let you and Mona get back to it, but I want you in bed by 10. Got it? Yeah, alright, I'll do it, I huffed, crossing my arms. Once the door clicked shut, Mona peeked her head out from under my bed. Mom gone? Yeah, Mona, she's gone. She slid out from the bed, rejoining me. Mona, sleep in bed. Yeah, you can sleep with me. We just have to make sure that Mom doesn't find out. No, Mom. That's right, Mona. No, Mom. Mona. And I began to develop a real connection. She shared the bed with me every night going forward, whenever I wasn't at school or being forced out of my room by Mom. I was hanging out with Mona. Her and I became intertwined, and her characteristics, both physical and emotional, became more human with each passing day. Things were going great until Mona's hair color changed. Mallory, time for school. Mom, I'm up, I yelled, a twinge of annoyance seeping into my words. Good morning, Mo. I paused. Mona's hair was no longer that deep shade of blue that I'd fancied so much. Now it was brown, just like mine. Mona yawned, stretching her arms high in the air. Morning, Mallory. Mona, did you change your hair color? Yes, she bashfully admitted, averting her gaze. Why? How? Wanted to be pretty like Mallory. Drew on paper, she said, pointing to the plastic table. Mona, that's sweet, but you are pretty. I liked your blue hair. Oh, Mona ugly now. Tears began to well in her eyes. Of course you're not ugly. That's not what I meant. Mallory, get up, now. Mom, I'm up. Give me a second. I turned to Mona. I need to go to school now, but we'll talk about it when I get home, okay? She nodded and watched in silence as I prepared to go about my day. Mona going to miss Mallory, she said as I walked out the door. I'm going to miss you, too. My eyes kept darting to the clock throughout the school day. Something didn't feel right. Mona had never told me that she'd missed me before, and she changed her hair to the same color as mine. Something felt wrong. I beelined for my room the moment I got home. I had to get to the bottom of whatever was going on. Mona, where are you? Mona here, a soft voice responded from beneath the bed. Slowly, she emerged, greeting me with a huge smile. Her hazel eyes glimmered with excitement. Wait, Hazel, I have hazel eyes. Mona, what did you do to your eyes? She proudly held up the picture I had drawn weeks prior. She'd furiously scribbled over the figure's eyes in brown crayon, so that the purple was no longer visible. Mona looked like Mallory now. Mallory-like. I paused for a long moment, really taking an opportunity to soak in her appearance. Mona was right. She looked scarily similar to me, almost to the point that you could have mistaken us as twins. Mona, you need to stop changing the picture, okay? I like you how you are, okay? How's school? She asked, placing the drawing on my bedside table. It was good. I'll tell you about it, I said, plopping down next to her as the tension in the atmosphere dispersed. I went to sleep that night feeling closer to Mona than ever. She just wanted to be like me. That wasn't a bad thing, right? I should have seen the writing on the wall. I awoke to find a pair of cold hands wrapped around my throat. A shadowy figure had me pinned down, unforgiving icy fingers choking me with relentless force. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, my heart plummeted into my gut. Mona, I wheezed, desperately clawing at her hands. Mona hate being alone. Mona hate Mallory. Mona going kill Mallory. I shuddered. Her changes to the drawing. It all made sense. Mona was planning to replace me. Please, I sputtered. Something wet dripped onto my forehead. Mona, sorry. I could feel my life fading. I had to do something, and fast. I grappled for anything I could use as a weapon, and that's when my fingertips grazed the paper lying on my nightstand. I laboriously inched it closer, and closer until, I held the drawing in front of Mona's face. Her eyes grew wide as dinner plates. Mona just wanted to be real girl, she whimpered. All she could do was watch as I tore the page down the middle. Suddenly, I was free. Mona had vanished, wisped into the dark, never to return. Tears flooded down my cheeks as I violently gasped for air. I stayed there for a long time, sobbing uncontrollably. I had almost died, and lost 2 of my best friends in the span of less than a month. A sudden sense of ambition crashed over me like a tidal wave. I couldn't take any chances. I needed to be absolutely sure that Mona was gone for good. I scooped up all of my drawings from the plastic table and retrieved the lighter Mom kept in the kitchen. Rushing out the back door, I set the pictures ablaze and watched as the smoke billowed high into the cool night air. Mallory, what are you doing out here? Mom placed a hand on my shoulder and spun me around to face her. She gasped upon seeing my face. Mallory, what happened? Your neck, it's all bruised. Who did this to you? Tears welled in the corners of her eyes as I choked out a strained excuse. I don't know. I woke up like this. I know that Mom didn't believe me for a second, but it was the best explanation I could offer, without being sent to the loony bin. On the plus side, I got to stay home from school for a couple weeks until my bruises began to fade. Mom told Mrs. Allen that it was pneumonia. No one questioned it. When I did finally return to class, my heart nearly burst with elation. I hurriedly hung my backpack on its hook and claimed my seat, right next to a grinning Lisa. I don't think I'll ever truly understand how my ability works, but one thing is certain. I won't be drawing anything else for a long time.